You sometimes hear that a movie can really change a person, a source of inspiration, a new look on life. I wonder what Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 will do for me. I'm a hobo now. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to my look at the Halloween franchise. Today, Rob Zombie displays the fallouts of the events from his remake in Halloween 2. Zombie's remake was not necessarily met with positive praise, most people not liking the trashy, almost grindhouse approach, while others appreciated the new direction it took. Regardless of the criticisms, the movie made a domestic gross of $58 million, so the studio wanted a sequel immediately. Malik Akkad, Mustafa's son, had taken over as producer of the Halloween movies after his father tragically died in the 2005 Amman bombings. He was looking to do a traditional sequel to the remake with French directors Julien Maury and Alexandre Bustillo, who had released their intense gore fest Inside in 2007. However, creative differences caused this plan to fall through, and Malik went back to Rob. Zombie said after the exhaustive production he experienced during the first entry, he had no intentions of returning for a follow-up. However, he eventually decided that if there was going to be a sequel, he would want to be the one to complete his story. He would once again direct, write, and produce the film, but now he could really make this his own and not have to stick with the John Carpenter template placed in front of him before. It would pick up 2 years later with Laurie descending into madness as she tries to deal with her fateful encounter with Michael, who somehow managed to survive being shot in the head, while Dr. Loomis has become an unsavory celebrity author. Returning cast members would include Scout Taylor Compton as Laurie, Tyler Mane as Michael, Malcolm McDowell as Loomis, Sherry Moon as Deborah, Brad Dourif as Sheriff Brackett, and Danielle Harris as Annie. So how would Zombie conclude his tale of the Myers family? Let's find out. The movie begins with a psychological definition of a white horse, which represents one's drive to release rage with chaos. This will be the motif of the film, so get used to it. We get a flashback to a day when Deborah visited Smith's Grove and gave Michael a toy white horse, reminding him of a dream he had. Jump to 15 years later, as we see Laurie is walking alone down the streets of Haddonfield after shooting Michael, but Sheriff Brackett pulls up to make sure she's taken good care of. Back at the Myers house, two paramedics haul away the body of Michael, who was shot in the head. These two are gross as fuck, joking about necrophilia with Linda's body in the back. Stay classy with that writing, Rob. Well, we've spent enough time with these two, so let's see who takes them out.
You're like, cow! What? Cow!
Cow 1, Michael 0. The driver has been killed on impact, but the passenger is still barely alive. Michael puts an end to that quickly as he somehow manages to reveal he survived a shot to the head, escapes the van, and decapitates the passenger with a shard of glass. But then something catches his attention. Oh, Rob, any way to cram your wife back into your movie even after she killed herself? This shit's gonna have nuts in it. Back at the hospital, Laurie awakes and visits Annie, who also survives Michael's attacks. Nurse Octavia tries to return her to her room, but gets a call and has to leave her on her own. When Laurie returns to request more medicine, Octavia appears but looks a little bloodier. Michael has arrived and dispatches the nurse in brutal fashion. Holy fuck balls, he went ballistic there. He's grunting uncontrollably loud in the process and goes so hard that it almost becomes comical. It's harsh, but by the end you're like, okay, I think you got her there, dude. Poor Octavia Spencer has it in her resume that Michael Myers stabbed the unholy shit out of her for no real reason. A pretty good chase ensues, reminiscent of the original Halloween 2. Laurie makes it outside to a security post where she meets the guard Buddy, who offers to help her get to safety, and as you know, good things await the nice people in zombies movies. Michael destroys the station, makes it inside, and brings the axe down on Laurie, but it was all just a dream. Why? I love this opening with the hospital setting being brought back, and the chase is pretty tense. Seeing Michael in the rain is really cool, the way he rages out is insane, and his hunt for Laurie is suspenseful. But it's like, it doesn't even count because it was Laurie's nightmare and none of it ever happened, and softens the punch it packed. It's 2 years later, and Laurie is punked out on a ton of medication and living with the Brackets. You'd think she'd be grateful, but now she's even more of a bitch, complaining about her therapist and Annie.
You don't fucking care. Right. I don't fucking care. I don't understand, Laurie.
This is a new interpretation of how the character of Laurie Strode would deal with the trauma of being attacked by Michael, but I'm not a big fan of the complete 180 she does. I'd be willing to argue that Annie had just as horrible an experience, but managed to remain level-headed and make an attempt at moving on. We all handled traumatic situations differently, but unfortunately, it's made Laurie intolerable. She has a session with her therapist, Barbara, where she reveals she harbors rage at Annie because she's a reminder of what happened that night, in turn making Laurie believe it's her own fault for what happened. Oh, and a Rorschach test on Barbara's wall reminds Laurie of white horses. Just in case you forgot, that was a thing. Cut to Dr. Loomis, who has written a sequel to his successful book on Myers and has turned into a complete diva douche after letting fame go to his head.
Look at you. Are you color coordinated? What pink clogs and this orange thing? What are you, a clam digger or something? This is old, Loomis. This is new.
This is the absolute worst Loomis has or will ever be. It backs up my theory from last week that by the end he didn't care about Michael and was just seeking fame as an author. Back to our other shitty lead, Laurie shows up for work at a coffee shop? Record store? Weed dispensary? Whatever, she works there with her annoying friend Harley and more straight-laced Maya. But those two disappear for quite some time, so back to Loomis promoting his new book, The Devil Walks Among Us. He mocks a young Michael who refused to accept the death of his mother while throwing out some Freudian explanations for his murderous actions. The audience asks him questions like if he feels responsible for the people Michael killed, and since his body was never found, is he afraid that he's still alive?
Let me make things nice and sparkling clear. Michael Myers is fucking dead!
I never understood why Loomis, of all people, would stick to the mentality that Michael was dead despite the body disappearing. You'd think he'd be the most worried about the chaos that could happen, even over the slight possibility the killer was still roaming. We do see Michael is now a wandering hobo, not wearing his mask, living off the land, and seeing visions of his dead mother instructing his young self to bring the family back together. As you can see, all of our main players have become drastically different since the last time we saw them. All I'll say for now is Zombies got balls for thinking outside the box on this one. That night, a couple of hicks catch Michael trespassing and beat the crap out of him until the girl with them begs them to stop. As they get ready to leave, Michael puts his mask back on and gets back to doing what he does best and kills both the hicks and even the girl who tried to help him. Still not totally thrilled with the killing grunts, but he remains savage as hell. Meanwhile, Laurie and the Brackets are having a pizza dinner as Michael has a dog for his meal. Then there's some trippy black and white dream involving Michael, Deborah, and creatures straight out of The Nightmare Before Christmas. Cut to Loomis at the Myers house promoting his new book, but many, including myself, find it to be in bad taste.
Bad taste? Bad taste? God, it's business, woman! Business! When I want your opinion, I'll beat it out of you.
Douche bag. Laurie has another dream in the bathroom, this time being the young Michael dressed as a clown and killing Annie duct taped to the couch. I've never done drugs, but I can only imagine it garners a similar experience of watching this movie. Laurie rushes to her therapist, ranting about her need for more medication, but when Barbara refuses and tries to calm her down, the session doesn't end for the best.
I'm really concerned right now.
No, it's not bullshit. You know what? You're more fucked up than I am, you crazy bitch.
The bitchiness continues that night as she rages out on Annie, but let's switch gears to a strip club. Coworker Howard is ordered to take out the trash, but bumps into a maskless Myers and has some choice words for the 7-foot-tall hobo. Michael promptly retaliates. Fuck, and I thought Michael was the angriest in the last movie. Inside the strip joint, Michael, mask back on, barges in on the boss and his girlfriend and kills them brutally as well, smashing them into glass repeatedly, but he gets his mask partially ripped in the process. This scene ultimately has zero purpose other than to up the body count. Those three people are literally nobodies and only appeared here. It's finally October 31st, and Loomis has a book signing in Haddonfield that goes horribly wrong after Linda's father confronts him and almost shoots him, blaming Loomis for his daughter's death. Meanwhile, Lori picks up a copy for herself and gives it a review right in her car.
Fuck! 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 Fuck you, motherfucker! Fuck!
Distraught over finding out that she's Michael's sister, Angel Myers, she confides in her friends for comfort and to take her out for a night of drinking at a Halloween party. Loomis appears on a talk show only to get insulted by Chris Hardwick and Weird Al Yankovic? Pretty odd moment, but back at the Halloween party, Harley tries to hook up with some rando, but he gets killed by Michael while taking a piss, and she's choked out in his van. Pretty cut and dry there, so let's go to something more confusing.
What do you want from me?
It's almost time to come home, Angel.
Maya decides it's time to take Lori home after her freakout, and luckily there's a deputy standing guard over the house. Okay, there was a deputy standing guard over the house. Michael sneaks into the house and attacks Annie off-screen in slow-mo. When Lori and Maya return, they find Annie's bloodied corpse on the bathroom floor. Maya is killed downstairs while trying to call the police, but Annie's final moments are much more important right now. It's a bummer because she turned out to be one of my favorite characters this time around. Danielle Harris did a better job at making Annie more likable, and she had a great smart-ass sense of humor. Remind you of anyone you know? Lori escapes from the house and is chased down by Michael through the woods, but Sheriff Brackett is called to his house after the grisly attack on Annie.
Oh, no, Annie! No! No!
Is a Halloween movie making me emotional? Holy shit. Seriously, the entire scene is heartbreaking. Brad Dourif sells it that you're seeing a father discover the aftermath of his daughter's murder. I will say right here that he gives the best performance in the whole movie. But we have to move back to Lori, who briefly gets help from a driver until he's stabbed in the back by Michael and she's carried away. Brackett is informed of a tip on where Michael is, a random shack in the middle of the woods, and they quickly surround the place. But Loomis finally makes a selfless move and arrives on the scene, entering the shack to try and speak with Michael to let Lori go. He witnesses Lori dealing with illusions of young Michael holding her down, but the real Michael tackles him out of the shed.
Michael, for God in heaven,
Die!
Die? The notoriously silent killer's first word in 15 years is die? I don't fucking know anymore, man. This whole thing has been one big drug trip, so sure, have him speak once, fuck it. The police gun down the ever-loving shit out of Michael, killing him once and for all. But Lori steps out of the shed and picks up his knife, only to get shot as well in slow-mo still frames. Michael, Lori, and Loomis lie dead on the ground, but it fades to a long white hallway of an institution where Lori sits at the very end, watching her mother lead a white horse.
Love her.
Is she alive? Dead? Doesn't matter, cause that's the end of the story. My overall thoughts on Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. I don't love it, but I surprisingly don't hate it. It is an absolute departure from what we know to be a Halloween film. I would say the opening feels like one with the Michael kills and hospital chase, but from the minute Lori wakes up from that dream, it becomes a totally different beast. It deals with the fallout of that fateful Halloween night from all sides of the board. Lori slowly losing her sanity, Loomis's lack of empathy for others, and Michael sorta giving up but being guided by visions of his mom to pick up where he left off. The first remake was definitely Michael's story, but here he shares it equally with Lori and Loomis. In the end, it is a slasher movie, so Michael's gotta kill a bunch of people, but Rob really wanted to make something deeper and explore people's psyche, which is honestly incredibly interesting. Am I on board with everything done during this exploration? Not totally, but I appreciate Rob's attempt at departing from the formula and making a sequel that isn't just Michael's back and Lori has to defeat him. The whole white horse thing is too odd, and using it as a symbol for Michael's rage makes no sense to me, feeling more like Rob shoehorning Sherry Moon back into the narrative. This, along with Loomis quoting Freud, makes it seem like Rob had read a philosophy book and thought it would be neat to incorporate the information he learned into the Myers mythology. He also uses some bizarre imagery in spots that feel inspired by those that shop and or work at Hot Topic. I'm glad that the sequel doesn't have that super dirty feeling the first one did, like totally white trash with people acting so vulgar that you want Michael to take them out immediately, minus the two paramedics in the opening. However, I do notice that the cinematography is a bit of a downgrade from the first one, still having shaky cam, random slow-mo scenes, and it almost has that weird direct-to-video feel at times. And believe it or not, the classic Halloween theme is not used anywhere until the end credits. That's straight up blasphemy to many fans, but I can't say I miss it at all that much as I was engaged with the story and didn't notice. The performances feel like an upgrade, despite some becoming more unlikable characters. Laurie becoming a total bitch is annoying, but Scout does such a good job at displaying the character having a total psychotic breakdown, lashing out at everyone around her, and having a somewhat appropriate reaction to finding out Michael was her brother. She's trying to realize who she really is. As I mentioned before, I see it as another interpretation as to how the character would deal with the aftermath of her experience with Michael being far different from Jamie Lee in Halloween H2O. The dreams she has involving Deborah and young Michael don't make a hell of a lot of sense, but I guess it was done to show she still had a connection thanks to the Myers blood. Malcolm McDowell does well again performance-wise, but Loomis is unfortunately the weakest link with his new celebrity diva personality. He has no resemblance of the person he previously was and takes no responsibility until the final minutes. This is the one new direction that I completely disagree with in every aspect. I love Brad Dourif and Danielle Harris as the Brackets. Each of them steals the show and gives us characters we can finally root for. Annie's not only dealing with her own battle scars, but putting up with Laurie's complete self-destruction and rage takes a toll on her. She's the one who's grown into a more mature person as opposed to Laurie, who has devolved. Sheriff Brackett is just a good man here, taking in Laurie and trying to make the best life he can for her and his daughter. I will stand by my opinion that Dourif's performance from the moment he finds Annie until the end is one of the best in the franchise. As for Michael, it's complicated. Tyler Mane is still scary and vicious, but my problems go back to Rob's direction in giving him mommy issues. That's Jason's territory, not Michael's. I don't like that he's unmasked for large portions of the movie, has that dirty hobo look with the long hair and beard, and grunts with every stab. His kills are very basic, a lot of them simple stabbings with the exception of the nasty face stomp. They're all still very brutal despite not being super creative. I also don't care for the mask when it's actually worn because at this point it looks too beaten up and looks like it could be easily ripped apart. And I can't believe he spoke at the end. Granted, that's only in the unrated director's cut, but I still find it disorienting just like the rest of the movie. As crazy as it sounds, I believe the movie is an insane tale about family, knowing who you are, and dealing with your past to move on with your future. And Michael Myers fucking people up. So while I think it's a little too odd at times, I don't agree with a lot of the character changes, it's not shot as well, and its philosophy can seem forced with Deborah and the White Horse. I genuinely think this is one of the more fascinating Halloween entries as it deals with actual character development, isn't a traditional sequel, has good performances, brutal kills, and probably one of the best openings with the hospital. I give Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 3 White Horses out of 5. But let me know your thoughts. Is this one of your least favorite entries because of how different it is? Or do you like how off-template Rob Zombie went? How do you feel about the drastic changes in the characters? And what was your favorite kill? Don't forget to subscribe and follow my Twitter and Instagram. Links to those are in the description. In 2 weeks, I'll be back with the recent franchise reboot quill, Halloween 2018. Next week, I have a surprise as things will get a little chilly in the snow. Until next time, peace.